Hi everyone, my name is Katie and I want to wish you a happy Holy Week. Throughout this week we're going to be having our spiritual mission trip, especially for those who aren't able to go on a mission trip this year. So today is Palm Sunday and we hear in Mark's Gospel, "Go into the village opposite you, and immediately on entering it, you'll find a colt tethered on which no one has ever sat. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone should say to you, 'Why are you doing this?' reply, 'The master has need of it, and will send it back here at once.'" So they went off and found a colt tethered at a gate outside on the street, and they untied it. So today, the theme we're focusing on is divine providence. And this gospel is such a great expression of that because, and really all of Holy Week is such a great expression of divine providence because, you know, none of the disciples really know what's going on. They totally have to trust Jesus, and Jesus has to trust that everything is God's will, and he's going to follow God's will. And so in this example, he says to his disciples, "Hey, go to the village and get me a donkey. It'll be fine." And they're like, "All right." And so they go and they bring it back. And this is exactly God's plan. And all they had to do was faithfully trust and surrender their situation to Jesus, to God. So today we have Michael here. And Michael is the director of the Mother Teresa Project. And you have lots of experiences with divine providence, not only from arranging our mission trips, but also going on mission trips. Last year you went to Brazil. So can you tell us a little bit about what it's like, your experience with divine providence in planning the mission trips and also going on them?
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think the first thing that comes with these mission trips is calling the sisters and letting them know that you are going to be there. And so for most of us, like, first, making a call to a different country is already pretty hard. Like, that's not something that is really easy. And the sisters also have limited technology, so it's not like, oh, I can send them an email or like send
it's
them
just
a quick
like a
text.
phone call.
Like you got to give them a phone call. And if anybody's been to an MC house, the one in Miami sticks out to me. Everybody's kind of running around and they're working on serving the people that are in front of them. I think a beautiful thing about the Missionaries of Charity is they see Jesus in every single person. So they're never going to end a conversation quickly or anything like that. They're always going to just be focused on the people in front of them, which means they're not focused when the phone's ringing.
They're more focused on
they're more focused on
front.
the people. And so you're calling them, and I'm like, wow, they're never answering. When am I going to get a hold of them? All of this, like, we are coming down. Like, all of this is going to work out. And you go to a house and you understand, like, oh, this is why they're not answering the phone, is because there's a lot of other people that they're worried about. And so going to that first thing in divine providence is I call the sisters in Brazil and I tell them, like, this is our flight, this is when we're going to be there at this airport. And they're just like, okay, sounds good, we'll see you then. And then, like, that's click. And that was the last communication I had with them before we go on the flight. So you could just imagine, like, I'm leading. Yeah,
you're leading all these people.
I'm leading six other students, another chaperone, and we're taking an 8-hour flight down there. And you're just like, oh man, like I really hope this works out, because you're just like, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't really know what airport we're going to, and the MC homes, like, they never really have an address. Like, you're just kind of like, you just kind of have to know. Like, you either know where the MCs are in these countries or you don't. And so I'm like, well, I hope there's going to be someone that's there. I don't know how we're going to know that those are the people we're supposed to be with, but and you realize, like, I'm the one, when I was a student and I went on a mission trip, I always thought, well, the chaperone has this answered. Like, the chaperone knows all the answers to these things. And now I'm in this position, I'm like, I don't really know all the answers to these things. I got to just allow God to provide these answers. So I'm sweating bullets the whole flight down. And we get there, and we get our bags, and so again, that's the longest wait of my life, just waiting for these kids to grab their bags, because I'm like, guys, we're gonna be stranded in the airport. I hope you guys brought snacks. Like, we're gonna be stranded. I don't have cell phone service. They don't even have cell phones, so it doesn't matter. But then I remember we turn the corner and we look at all of the people. Like, you walk through these doors and they open up, and there's all the people waiting for their loved ones to come off. And we walk on there, and you just see the blue and white saris. And like, I remember Megan Luther turned and looked at me and said, I think those are the ones here for us. And I was like, yes, yeah, they are. And like, the sisters even said, like, we knew immediately when you guys stepped into the room, like, you were the ones coming with us, because you just smiled. You just had the biggest smile.
Yeah.
And
hey, without that trust of, like, I don't know, it's easy, like, when we want to plan things, to say, oh, if I don't have a plan for this, I'm just not going to do it, because I don't know if it's going to work out. But for the mission trips, it really seems like, okay, we have this great thing in mind, and we want to go and serve, and we're giving all that we can, and still sometimes we don't have a perfect plan, and just have to, like, take that leap of faith, really trust that God's going to provide exactly what we need. And maybe that's part of the point, to let go of things and trust in divine providence.
Without a doubt, I think that's a huge lesson that I learned on this trip. I was, there, and I left. I left my wife, and I had a son who was about 6 months old, and so that was hard to leave him for a month, for the week, and you're constantly thinking about them, and you don't really know, like, God, why are you sending me on this trip? Like, why am I supposed to be here? And the first part of, like, just trusting in him, just trusting that the MCs they're going to be in the terminal, and they're going to be waiting for you. They're going to have a van where everybody fits, and you're all going to drive, and you're going to get there safely, right? And then the same thing was happening when we're supposed to go back. Like, the MCs, they kind of run on their own schedule, and I said, like, but planes don't run on their own schedule. So, like, this is our departing plane. Like, we'll have the van here, and like, the whole day, the van's not there, and the van's not there, and I'm, again, just starting to sweat, being like, okay, how are we going to stay here for, like, after we cancel our flight? How am I going to get into all that? But then the van shows up, and we all get in, and we go, and we're fine. And, like, to just think, how many times do we stress about things in our life that are out of our control? And if I just say, like, you know what, God, when the van's going to show up. You know when the van's going to show up. You know that the MCs are waiting for us. You know where we're supposed to be and when we're supposed to be there. Like, I just got to let go of this idea that I have control and I need control over my own life. So to go back about that idea of leaving my family for that week, it was a wonderful time for me to be able to have holy hour with the sisters, to have morning prayer, to have evening prayer with them, and then thinking, wow, I really desire this. I desire this lifestyle. You know, the sisters live in this routine of prayer. Yeah. And going back home, I was thinking, well, I'm married, I have a kid, I can't do that. Like, that's what their life is, that's not what my life is. But going back home, it was a really cool experience and a really cool lesson that I had, because I'm back at home with my family, and I said, like, wait, I'm the father, and my wife is totally on board with this. Like, we can make our house a house of prayer. Like, we can make our home, as Mother Teresa says here in the museum, make your home another Nazareth. Like, fill it with love, joy, and peace. And there was no reason why I couldn't bring the same prayer. I couldn't bring Jesus in the way that they had Jesus in their convent. I could bring him to our house. Yeah, and that's so beautiful that, like, just from, little moments of trust and trusting in God's plan and providence, that you were able to see, like, this beautiful lifestyle of prayer from the missionaries of charity, and then, like, bring it into your home life, bring it to your family. Just, like, what a small, like, drop of trust can do for us in our life. And I think, like, Mother Teresa, when I think of her, left, like, everything behind to go and serve the poorest of the poor on the streets. Like, did not know where she was going to stay that night. She left everything and said, God, like, I know you're calling me here. I will trust you, and I will go. And, like, instead of looking at our whole lives and saying, like, oh, how is this going to work? Just trusting God
in the moment, having this routine of prayer, then we're able to suddenly do beautiful things because it's God working through us giving the small things we have, and letting God transform them into the beautiful things He wants them to be.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I think like especially during Holy Week on Palm Sunday, starting it off like, ooh, that trust. Like you're thinking, how can God's supposed to be the savior of the world, right? Mm. He's supposed to be this military leader and everything's going to be fine, right? The cult's going to be where we want it to be. These people are going to praise him. And then they're realizing like, wait, he can't stand up to Pilate. This wasn't how the story was supposed to go.
Some things turns up.
Right. And
things turn upside down.
Yeah. The disciples are like, wait, what's happening here? Like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. And then he gets captured in the Garden of Gethsemane and they watch him be accused and eventually get crucified, and they're like, wait, I didn't know this. This isn't the story, but then he rises. Sorry, spoiler alert. Right, Sunday he rises from the dead and like conquers sin and death, and they didn't realize like the glory and the splendor of the good he was going to bring about. Like our minds sometimes think of this small good that we have, but God has such a bigger good in store for us.
Yeah.
And that
there's
trust.
No limits to His divine providence and His love.
Right, and that abundance that He has for us. So I think that would be the one thing that I would encourage students during this week is to just think about that. What areas can I demonstrate more faith? What areas can I demonstrate that more trust? We do it on mission trips all the time, and the rewards are beyond compare, beyond whatever we could imagine. So this week, what are some small ways that you could put forth a little more trust in God and just wait and see what kind of awesome rewards He has in store for you?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much, Michael. This is great.
Thank you, Katie. Yeah,
all right.
Continue. We'll be on this for the rest of the week. So
join us tomorrow.
That's right. Keep tuning in, and I think we got some great videos ahead for you.
All right.